Hi there, I'm Nicola Scott. We're hanging out at Fan Expo in Toronto. And if you're going to geek out, geek hard.
So we're here in Artist Alley on the last day of Fan Expo Canada 2024, and we get to talk today with the amazing artist Nicola Scott. Just Nicola, it's so great to have you here, and again, you know, you're all the way there down under, so when you come here, it's kind of a treat.
It's been 17 years since I was in Toronto, so it's a real treat to be back.
Yeah, well, that is, wow, such a long time ago. My God. Well, it's so good that we get to talk to you today. Now, of course, I mentioned from Australia, and you got into the business at a time when the internet was kind of in the prehistoric era.
A little bit.
There was video calls were not a thing, you know, file sharing not a thing. So you're all the way down there, and the, you know, DC and them are all the way up here. What was it like, you know, kind of forging the path for Australian creators?
Well, the day, the interview where I got the job, it was at San Diego Comic-Con. My editor, who was giving me the job, Mike Carlin, he said to me, "We've never worked with anyone so far away before, so let's see how it goes." So it was very much a case of, I don't want to screw it up because I've been, you know, pushing for this opportunity. But now that I'm getting it, I know that there are all these people in Australia who'd love to sort of, you know, make it as well, so I can't screw it up for them either. Thank God for email. That was like what we did have. Yeah. And email was sufficient. You know, we could communicate really quickly. They could send me the scripts. But back in the day, I was FedExing boxes of art every 2 weeks. And I was doing that for years, you know, across the world. And, you know, we just sort of had to build that time into the schedule. It could take anywhere from 4 to 10 days.
Of course, you work with Greg Rucka, you've worked with Gail Simone. Those two of my favorites, two of many people's favorites. What are those working relationships like? Are they like, is there a lot of collaboration?
They're both quite different. Gail would like to sort of just surprise me. So she writes ridiculous scenarios and hilarious dialogue and just sort of like, here, like spring it on me. So I kind of never knew what was coming down the pipeline with Gail, but that was like half the fun. I would read it, it would be hilarious. I think I know what kind of visual gags I can add to that to surprise her. So it would be this sort of like backwards and forwards kind of trying to amuse each other. Where with Greg and I sort of talk a lot. He and I will talk at length, like non-stop before we start a thing. He still wants to surprise me, but that's because when we talk about a project that we're working on, we talk about it in terms of themes and sort of amoebus ideas. You know, he'll say, "What do you want in there?" I'll sort of talk about a thing that interests me, but I'm not trying to give him a scenario or give him a context. I just want the sort of idea of a thing. So when I do get a script from him, it's always a sort of delight to sort of see how he's found his way to include and build on the conversation that we've had, but still surprise me. And then I like to, you know, reciprocate that by sort of saying, okay, here's the script that you've given me. Here are the layers that I'm going to attempt to add that I think are part of your intention, even if they're not in the script.
Well, you guys work so well together. Some great stuff. Definitely check out Black Magic. But then, of course, also you guys did work together on Wonder Woman. And if anybody knows anything about your history, the desire to draw Wonder Woman is the main catalyst of getting into the comic industry.
She was the whole purpose. You know, I didn't grow up with comic books, but I did grow up with superheroes thanks to Linda Carter and Adam West and Christopher Reeve and the Super Friends cartoon. And when I was at a sort of crisis moment in my youngish adulthood, trying to work out what I was going to do with my life, the idea of getting paid to draw Wonder Woman occurred to me, and I was like, oh my God, that's a job. I want that job. And that was how I got into comics in the first place.
For 2023, one of my picks for our year-end top items was Best Team or Ensemble, the Amazons versus Heracles. So I just wanted to know, when you get the script, how much time do you budget for a section like that is literally mythical in its origins?
Right. Luckily for this book, we didn't have a sort of schedule that we needed to keep to. And that moment was early enough in the book that the finish line was so far away that it was just like, I feel like I know how epic this moment needs to be, so it's just going to take as long as it's going to take. And it took me about 10 days for just that double page spread because of the density of it and the sort of construction of it. And I did nearly go crazy. You know, there is that sort of point in time where you're sort of seeing cross-eyed. It's very hard to sort of be a person in the world. You kind of walk around like a thunderbird. And my husband would be saying to me, are you okay? And I'd be like, I'm nearly there, I think. I can't tell anymore. But when you get to a point where you understand, I think I'm finished, I think this is it, which is sort of one of those things that you learn as a professional, is like knowing when to stop. Looking at it and going, this is as dense as I need it to be, but I haven't pushed it too far. That was sort of like a, like, I just it wouldn't compute. I would just be like, I need to look at that in about a week and see if I'm right.
I heard you giving a young artist advice about life drawing to get, bodies right and whatever. But one other thing you do great is kind of lush vegetation and tiny insects.
Oh,
and
right.
in the New Titans, there's a great sort of transition from Swamp Thing to Beast Boy. I don't want to spoil too much for people who haven't read it. When you're approaching that, your background, what have you studied to get that level of detail? I feel like I'm walking through Allen Gardens here in Toronto.
Well, that's very nice, but what did I study? I Google imaged the hell out of every insect I could think of. Like, I knew where in the world we were, so I'm sort of working towards that sort of environment, that climate. Tom has also done his research, so he's sort of asking for specific insects and flora and fauna. And then it's about, again, like it was with the Heracles spread, it's about building the density of it. You've got storytelling to do, but part of that storytelling, especially in those moments that you're referring to, is about volume, and when you're drawing teeny tiny little things and you're having to do volume of it, part of the fun of that is like, the ones that are right in the foreground, you can get all up in their details. And then you've got to sort of give the reader that sense of a depth of field. So you've got layers and layers and layers of these, many different kinds of insects. Panel to panel, they change. That's just about, doing some research and then buckling down and knowing that you've got to populate the space with a swarm of it.
It's beautiful, and the tiny sacrifice of seeing one insect get crushed.
A little bit of Beast Boy dying away. That's horrifying.